Aries Girl Podcast. Welcome to the Aries Girl Podcast. I'm your host, Aries Ramsey. All commentary provided in this video is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only, under the guidance of the Fair Use Act of 1976. Well, now that we have that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the show. Hello Zodiacs. First and foremost, let me say that it appears that Carlos King is trying to punish and hurt Melody Cherie Rogers for some reason by cutting her out of scenes and out of episodes, but he's actually just hurting the Love and Marriage Huntsville ratings. Yes, Carlos King, Stormi Steele is that girl, but that's on TikTok, not on Love and Marriage Huntsville. I'm very proud of her 1 million in sales accomplishment on TikTok, and as a black woman, I want her to continue to succeed. However, when it comes to her on the show, her attitude is off-putting, and she comes off as phony and jealous. Why, you ask? It's because she tries to emulate the people she's jealous of, which makes her phony. She is her most authentic self when she's being ratchet, hood, and/or ghetto. My lasting impression of her was "Das what's up," and I will forever see her in that light, along with her 2 mugshots. Stormi is no Melody Rogers, and the more scenes that Carlos gives Stormi on each episode proves it. Everyone can see that Stormi is trying to be propped up as the next Melody or as Melody's replacement. Also, Carlos, you don't seem to realize that Stormi's and Tisha's moms actually contribute to people disliking Stormi and Tisha. Do I need to say that louder for the people in the back? People's dislike of Wanda transfers to Tisha, and people's dislike of Betty transfers to Stormi. Carlos, you don't even realize that Tisha and Stormi are catching strays because of their moms, and their moms don't know it either because if they did, they wouldn't act the way that they do on social media. I can only imagine the second-hand embarrassment that Stormi and Tisha must feel. Sorry about the rant, Zodiacs, but that needed to be said. Now, let's officially get into the show and discuss Season 8, Episode 9, Beyond Scared Stormi. In the first scene of Love and Marriage Huntsville after lockup, we meet up with Stormi Steele, dressed in Fendi, getting her hair and makeup done, to go take her mugshot. This is yet another way that Carlos King and this cast have figured out how to define deviancy down on this show. Why is Stormi trying to normalize getting dolled up before going to jail? Should we now call this portion of the show, Love and Marriage Huntsville, before lockup? I can only imagine some people thinking that this is some sort of a flex or something aspirational. I can hear it now. Some impressionable young woman is saying, "Ooh, look at Stormi getting her lace front wig installed and her face beat, to go to Jaya and take her mugshot. That's what's up." Trust me, it's not the flex that Stormi or production thinks that it is. But I digress. In her confessional, Stormi says that, after hearing that there's a warrant for her arrest, she's decided to turn herself in. She doesn't want her son there to see everything, so she had Courtney take him to school, and she has her team there to help her get her game face on, because if she is going to have a mugshot, she's going to do it right. Stormi, doing it right would have encompassed having the proper business acumen. When the blogger showed up at your warehouse attempting to buy products, you could have easily had someone tell her that your warehouse wasn't a storefront and that sales are conducted online or in stores. Then, you wouldn't have had warrants put out on you for your behavior. If Stormi would work on her business acumen, she more than likely will not be in this situation again. Anyway, one of the members of her team asks her if she has tried to send her herself that day, to which Stormi tells them that she hasn't, and it is suggested that Stormi needs to pray. Expectedly, this gets Stormi emotional. Stormi says that she can't believe that she has to go turn herself in on a warrant and have a mugshot when it was someone who was antagonizing her. Is that what really happened, Stormi? Then, Brianna tells Stormi not to let this deter her, and reminds Stormi that she is here to inspire others. Shelby Beasley, Courtney's mom, then comes in to give Stormi a hug and console her. She asks Stormi if there was anything that she could do for her, and Stormi just shook her head no. She told her mother-in-law that she was so happy that she was there. Stormi says that she feels as though she didn't have anyone to come there for her, and her mother-in-law tells her that she will always be there for her, because Stormi is like her daughter. Stormi mentions that she had called her mom Betty the day before about the situation, and Betty told her that that's what she gets for being on reality TV. Betty, aren't you on reality TV as well? In this very episode of this very show even? In contrast to Betty, Shelby told Stormi that she put everything to the side just to be there for her family, because that's what's important to her. Stormi tells Shelby that she's going to stop crying because she still needs to get her makeup and hair done for her mugshot. Wait, does this mean that Stormi can start and stop crying at will? Someone help me out, please. Shelby then tells Stormi that people are going to come for her, so she has to stay prayed up. Back in her confessional, Stormi says that she's been through so much on her entrepreneurial journey, and she thought that that was behind her. So to experience this at such a high point in her life is disheartening. But she feels that if God wanted her to fail, she would have failed already. In scene, Stormi is saying how she's a mother, a multi-million-dollar business owner, a viral sensation, going to mother effing jail, because somebody came to her warehouse to F with her. And with that, this scene is over. If you're keeping up, Stormi just went from talking about God in her confessional to being a braggart dropping multiple F-bombs in scene. Also, did you notice how likable and relatable Courtney's mom Shelby comes across in contrast to Stormi's mom Betty? It's like night and day. In the second scene, Tisha shows up wearing next to nothing, covered by a camo shirt with only one button fastened, along with some thigh-high boots. Gee, I wonder if she got her outfit from Target. It honestly looks like she has on some underoos from back in the day. Shout out to my set of Wonder Woman underoos that I had as a kid. Oh, the memories. Please let me know in the comments if you had a pair of underoos as a kid, and which superhero character it was. I'm very interested to know. When she walks into Embrace Candles to meet up with Destiny, Destiny immediately asked Tisha if Marceau saw her before she came there. Yeah, that is not candle-making attire. Also, Embrace Candles sounds eerily familiar to Melody Cherie's former brand of Embrace Beauty. Thank goodness it is now named 7th Avenue. They greet one another and check out what the other person is wearing, and Destiny is dressed in some cheetah tights with a blue button-down shirt. I guess that Tisha didn't send her the underoos and flesh-colored thigh-high memo for the attire. Destiny explains to Tisha that they are there to make candles because she is starting her own candle line. Well, home fragrance line with the candles coming out first. Is it me, or does this sound a lot like Karen Hugers from Real Housewives of Potomac concept? Destiny, do you have any original thoughts? Question. Does Destiny know that people are aware that her candles come from Alibaba, allegedly? Also, I'm trying to figure out who puts on an apron to make candles and leaves their YSL bag on their shoulder. Never mind, I just remembered that Destiny is probably flexing for the camera. I wonder if Tisha is going to leave her Louis on her shoulder while they make candles as well. Anyway, in her confessional, Destiny states that she invited Tisha because she is passionate about candles, and the new line is called Madani Reignite. Destiny claims that she didn't make it to Nell Fletcher's birthday party because she was out of town, and since Tisha didn't make it to the Lovers and Friends event, they have a lot of catching up to do. What in the name of fashion did Destiny have on in her confessional, and why did she decide to wear it? Hello, fashion police. I'd like to report a crime. Destiny explains that the inspiration for the candle look was the feeling of being broken and put back together. Trisha ends up joining Tisha and Destiny to learn to make candles from Gabe, the owner, and they pick out fragrances to start to make their candles. Trisha asks the ladies if they've been maintaining a healthy diet, and Tisha asks for the specifics of what a healthy diet is, because Destiny took her to brunch recently, and she said that she got waffle and chicken. Most people call it chicken and waffles, but okay Tisha. As their candles set, they start gossiping. Destiny asks Trisha if she had a good time at the gala, and Trisha admits that she stepped out of her comfort zone, and that she was surprised that she did it. Destiny mentioned the quote-unquote other couples there that she doesn't know why or how they got there. Of course, she is referring to Moses and Sunny. Destiny replays how Sunny approached her and asked if she wanted to talk, and how Destiny said she would not. Let's listen to an audio clip for a refresher.
Excuse me, Destiny, would you like to have a little conversation?
Trisha is acting surprised that Sunny pulled Destiny to the side, but Destiny said that Stormi put them in a private room at the event. Then, Destiny explains that Sunny should just go on with her married life and leave her alone. Destiny, I'm not buying this. You wanted Sunny to leave you alone because you were scared, in my opinion. What you really wanted was to be alone in the room with Moses. It would be easier for Sunny to go on with her married life if you would stop speaking on their marriage. Destiny continued to tell Tisha and Trisha that she informed Sunny that Moses was still sleeping with half of St. Louis, and how Sunny clapped back and said that he was only sleeping with other people when he was with Destiny. Tisha then asked Destiny if she spoke with Moses as well, but Destiny smiled and said that Moses was staring at her from across the room. Trisha told Tisha how Destiny pulled a Janet Jackson with her chest exposed. Tisha joked that Moses was staring at the goods, but Destiny corrected her and said that Moses was staring because he knows what it is. Then, Destiny made a dig at Sunny and called her insecure. Trisha asks if Sunny sees Destiny as a threat, and Destiny said, absolutely, which is why she flashed her wedding ring in Destiny's face. Destiny then claims that she doesn't care about that. Obviously, Destiny doesn't care because she lived the side chick life with Moses for 15 years. Hell, she's a professional side chick. In my opinion, I'd like to see a timeline of Moses's marriage, because it's sounding like Destiny was fooling around with Moses when he was married to his wife, and when she was married to Liberic, allegedly. Trisha confesses that she has a wedding ring and she's in a whole relationship. Tisha then says that Trisha can write a whole book. Ken, if you're listening, Trisha just views marriage as a piece of paper, so are you sure that you want to do this? I mean, but Destiny states that the only reason that Sunny got a seat at the table is because she got up. Gee, first the Book of Moses with Dr. Heavenly, and now the Table of Moses. This must stop. Tisha then asks Destiny if she thinks she can still get Moses now, and Destiny says absolutely. There's not a question in her mind, not a doubt, at all. Zodiacs, let's break this scene down with a little history lesson. Remember in the first episode of this season when Destiny came to Tisha's house dogging Sunny, and they were both on that hide your husbands, hide your sons narrative. Then, Tisha and Kimmy had coffee with Sunny in the next episode and told her that they felt the need to hide their husbands from her. Well, why is it that Tisha Scott, the champion of marriage, is asking a professional side chick if she can take Moses back? Tisha, baby girl, really? Who put you up to asking this question? I wonder how many women think that they can pull Marceau from Tisha, and while I'm at it, I wonder if Tisha thinks that Kiowa can pull Maurice back from Kimmy. You see what I did there, Tisha? Do you see how that works? And Trisha should just be quiet because her side dude, Ken, can't seem to pull her away from her husband. Let's move on. In the third scene, Stormi gets out of jail. I wonder if the cameras were rolling when she turned herself in though. In the car ride, Stormi told Courtney that it wasn't as bad as she thought it would be, and Courtney said, and I quote, "It's just jail." What is happening? Am I in the Twilight Zone? Because Stormi thinks that she was brave for going to jail. In her confessional, Stormi says that even though she was in handcuffs for 15 minutes, being in jail is still being in jail. She felt every emotion that one could think of. She had anxiety and a panic attack, and she was calling for the guards. She had to have someone come sit with her, even. She said that it was shocking to know that she could experience all of that in 15 minutes. My question is, did you experience all of this when you were arrested previously? Because none of this should be new. Back in scene on the car ride home, Stormi continues to tell Courtney that they let her keep her phone, and that they were nice people. Courtney seems pleased because not all police are nice. Then, Stormi asks Courtney what he thinks about her mom because she did not show up, nor did she call, and it is obvious that this hurt Stormi more than her 15 minutes in jail. Courtney asks her if she is going to talk to her mom about it, and Stormi said that she didn't have anything to say. He thinks that Stormi should at least tell her mom how she feels so that she can get things off of her chest. Stormi just said that her mom doesn't give a damn. Back in confessional, Stormi tells of how she called her mom for support through this, and her mom told her that that's what she gets for being on a reality show. She knows that her mom didn't want her to have to deal with everything that comes with being on reality TV, but she didn't want to know that that was her mom's stance. Especially since Stormi is the CEO of a successful company, having to go to jail for something so minute. So, Stormi also thinks that harassing communications is minute. Go figure. We also learn from Stormi that Betty hasn't been there for a lot of important moments in her life. This doesn't surprise me at all about Betty. Is anyone else not surprised? Let's move on to the fourth scene that involves Trisha coming clean about Ken to her sister. The scene starts off with Trisha prepping hors d'oeuvres and laying them out before her sister gets there. In her confessional, Trisha said that she told Ken that she would get the divorce started at her birthday dinner, but she wants to speak to her kids first because she hasn't talked to them about anything as of yet. We get a flashback scene of Trisha talking to both of her kids. When she asked her daughter Zaria how she would feel about her marrying Ken, her daughter seems to be fine with it because she would have a sister. This is in reference to the daughter from his previous relationship that Ken treats as his own, even though she isn't biologically his. Her son Xavier says that in the beginning, he thought things with his mom and Ken were weird, but now he thinks that Ken is cool. And her son thinks that Ken tends to bring out the softer side of his mom, which is something that he likes. Every time her son, Xavier, goes around the house, he sees Ken and his mom laughing and having fun, and he likes this for Trisha. When we are taken back to her confessional, Trisha continues to say that talking with her kids went well, so now she thinks it's time to tell the rest of the family. It's something that she doesn't want to do, but she's going to do it. Back in scene, as she finishes putting out hors d'oeuvres, her doorbell rings, and when Trisha opens the door, we are introduced to her sister Ebony. We are taken back to Trisha's confessional where she explains that she is going to first tell Ebony about Ken because Ebony lives in Huntsville as well. Trisha has another sister that lives in California, but she wants to tell that sister face to face because she knows the reaction she is going to get. She doesn't want to tell them over the phone because she doesn't think it's right. Her sisters may view things from a different perspective and tell her that she's moving too fast. She says that her sisters are opinionated like her, and they are going to give their opinion whether you like it or not. Well, Trisha, hopefully, you told your sister in California the news about Ken before this episode aired, or the next time you see her in person. It may be a little uncomfortable. Granted, what's stopping Ebony from picking up the phone once she leaves to tell your other sister? Trisha doesn't think it's right to tell her sister about her extramarital affair over the phone, but apparently, there's nothing wrong with having an open extramarital affair in the first place. Make it make sense. This whole scene is so phony to me. Back in scene, Ebony asks Trisha what's new and she tells her that she had a talk with her kids about her relationship with Ken. Then Trisha says to Ebony, and I quote, "I'm not sure if you know or not, but Ken and I have been living together." And her sister's response is, "Oh my God, Trisha, oh wow." Then, Trisha tells her that they have been living together for almost a year. Now, her sister seems fake surprised to learn that Ken and Trisha have been living together for almost a year. Ebony claims that she knew bits and pieces of Trisha's relationship with her husband Marquez, and she only thought that Trisha was having fun with Ken and that she would eventually get back together with her husband. Trisha then says that she was having fun in the beginning, but Ken grew on her. Shut the front door. Trisha is a female version of Martell Holt, except she caught feelings for her paramour. She should have just stayed on her thought-ish, like Megan Thee Stallion. Unlike the rest of us, Ebony needs clarity, and asks Trisha how long she's been separated from her husband, and she is shocked when Trisha says that it has been about 4 years. Ebony wants to know why Trisha didn't tell any of her siblings. Trisha then says that she was scared in the beginning because it was too good to be true with Ken. Let's run through this. Trisha has been with Marquez since high school, been married to him for 14 years, and they have 2 kids together. And with all of that, her sister wants to know if they would get back together. Trisha actually hesitated before she said no. Trisha says she has love for her husband, but she's not in love with him. She goes back into confessional to say that she knew her sister was going to have some judgments and opinions that she wasn't going to agree with. However, she can understand where her sister is coming from because their family is very traditional. She doesn't like it, but she understands it. Now, Ebony claims that she is all against divorces, and reminds Trisha that their parents were married for 38 years, through thick and thin, and 6 kids. Trisha makes the remark that she wants to die happy, and Ebony reminds her that she still has love for her husband and wants to know what was so bad in their marriage. Trisha then says that they were not meant to be together. They were incompatible. They got married at a young age, and didn't even know what marriage was. She thinks they got married because they had kids. Ebony wishes that Trisha would have come to them sooner, because Trisha kept everything from them, but her happiness matters. Back in confessional, Trisha was relieved when her sister told her that her happiness matters. It put her at ease. My first reaction after watching this scene was that Trisha still doesn't know what marriage is because she has a whole side dude/paramour named Ken. This scene also raises some questions, like, is the house that Trisha lives in with Ken her marital home with her husband Marquez? Or is this Ken's home that Trisha moved into with her kids? Or did Trisha and Ken get this house together as a couple? Or did Trisha get this house independently? Also, where does Marquez live? Is he still in Huntsville? Does he run into Trisha and Ken when they are out and about? If anyone knows, please share. Otherwise, let's move on. In the 5th scene, we catch up with Chris Fletcher, arriving at the Madison Bowling Center. In his confessional, he says that Courtney has invited the guys to go bowling, and it's his opportunity to show them that they are too young and not good enough because he's a competitive guy, and when it comes to bowling, none of them can beat him. Well, okay, Mr. Fletcher. Chris is then joined by Martell and Courtney, and they show each other a little competitive camaraderie. Martell jokingly points to some small bowling balls for Chris to use, and Chris tells him that it doesn't matter if he uses small balls or big balls. As they start to change into their bowling shoes, Martell asks them who all was coming. Courtney informs Martell that Ken is supposed to be joining them as well. And like magic, Ken walks in, and they greet him as Megatron. Courtney suggests that the loser of the bowling game has to buy the food, and we all know that Martell's money is funny, so he better play to win. As they start to bowl, Ken asks Courtney how Stormi is doing, and Courtney replied that she was doing good. In his confessional, Courtney says that since Stormi turned herself in, she's been in a great mood, and it's a lot of weight off of her shoulders. He hasn't told the guys that Stormi turned herself in because it isn't any of their business. The guys are going to find out about it when everyone else does. As Chris takes his turn at bowling, Martell then asks Ken how it's going and asks him if he is worn out from the Lovers and Friends event after his and Trisha's performance. Ken explained to Courtney and Martell that he had to beg Trisha to take her top off because she doesn't even wear attire like she had on that night to the beach. Chris comes back to join them, and then gets in on the conversation by asking if they were talking about what Trisha had on at the Lovers and Friends event, and pretty much instigates the entire conversation from there. Martell tries to explain to Courtney that he didn't participate because it was contingent on his body looking a certain way, and that he was given a couple of weeks to let them know. But Courtney reminds Martell that he told them no at the last minute, and hints that he could not get his body to look like Ken in a couple of weeks. And out of the blue, Martell asks Ken how old he is, to which Ken replies that he is 37. Then the conversation gets a little more scripted with Ken telling Martell that Trisha was mad at him the other night and he acted like he didn't know her at Stormi's house. Martell reiterates that he just didn't recognize her at first, and then Chris stirs the pot by asking Martell how was he supposed to know who Trisha was, and where he met her. Chris, didn't you try to introduce your cousin Trisha to Martell? She shouldn't be looking unfamiliar to you, sir. Martell just says that Trisha was cool with his brother, but then asks Ken how did Trisha say that she knew him, more than once, almost as if he was afraid of something. And Chris keeps stirring the pot by asking Martell where he met Trisha, and Martell just says, out. Courtney tells Martell that he needs to stop talking to so many women because that's his problem, and Chris still doesn't understand why Trisha would be so mad. Yes, you do, Chris. You understand why. Ken explains that Trisha felt played by Martell because she didn't want people to think something went on between them. Chris thinks Martell should have known who Trisha was, but Martell said she looked different, then asks Chris if he knows how many women he's communicated with. Courtney claims Martell isn't telling the whole story about Trisha. Martell explains that he hadn't seen her in years and didn't communicate with Trisha often. Also, he and Trisha didn't quote-unquote do nothing either, so hell nah, he won't remember her ass.
Man, you looking kinda unfamiliar right now.
Ken claims that he's like that too, and if something did happen before he came into the picture, it's okay because he's not an insecure guy, and he knows that Trisha is a pretty girl. He doesn't give a damn because Huntsville is small. And Chris blows up the conversation by asking Ken if he and Trisha are engaged. He must have been reading from cue cards or a script, because this isn't how a conversation naturally flows. We know how this ends. Ken hasn't asked because Trisha is still married, and Martell is going to relish in the fact that Ken is a side dude, and say that it happens to the best of them. Chris is really sticking to the script and asking all of the questions. He even asked if she got the papers signed. Ken says he doesn't really have a time frame per se, but there's because he is not going to be doing this with Trisha for years and years. Martel wants to know if Trisha is who he wants to be with, and yes, Martel, Ken's goal is to be upgraded from paramour to spouse, just like Ariane. If not, he's going to be Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo for the rest of his life. Martel also says that he wants to get married, and Chris asks if it is to his baby mama, also known as Ariane. Chris says he can do like Sunny and Moses, insinuating meeting someone and then getting married very quickly. I know that there is a woman out there who will accept Martel with 5 kids, an ex-wife, and a paramour as a baby mama. And no, Courtney, your joke was funny, but Martel is not going to marry Ariane and there's no chance of him getting back with Mel. Martel goes into confessional and says that he wants to get married again because he still believes in marriage. He says that he's not playing even though the guys are laughing and joking. That's why they won't be invited to his wedding. Whatever, Martel, and good luck to you, sir. The bowling game ends, but we don't have any idea who won. Courtney brings up that he is moving into a new warehouse, and the guys agree to help him move. Martel jokes that Nell and Stormi crack the whip on their husbands, and they head on out to end the scene. Sadly, this might be the best scene of this episode, minus Chris Fletcher's bad acting and bad timing reciting his lines. We have made it to the final scene of the saga known as Love and Marriage Huntsville before and after lockup. We find Stormi at home in the kitchen heating up something to eat, and her mother Betty walks in and joins her. Stormi asked her mom what she was doing, to which she replied that she was on her phone, and of course, Stormi thinks that Betty is on her phone too much. In her confessional, Stormi states that her mom is there and she wants to have a private conversation about how Betty hurt her feelings when Stormi had to turn herself into jail. Having vulnerable conversations with her mom gives her anxiety because the conversations have the tendency of not turning out well, and she wants things to be received well this time. Stormi brings up the pictures she posted of her son Chess online and asks Betty if she is ready for another grandchild, and luckily for Stormi, her mom is ready. This is when she brings up the surrogacy route. Betty is relieved that Stormi is considering surrogacy with all of the complications that Stormi had while giving birth to Chess. As they walk outside, Betty speaks on the surrogacy taking place somewhere other than Alabama, where there is no consideration for the mother's life with their strict laws. Back in confessional, Stormi mentions that the doctor that did her IVF is in California, and this is the same doctor that will be doing the surrogacy. She thinks that being in Los Angeles will work out best for everyone. As they sit down, Stormi brings up that her mom hurt her feelings when she didn't show up for her when she decided to turn herself into jail, and that when she called asking her mom to come to Alabama, she was already devastated that she had to turn herself in. Betty then tells Stormi that it was late when she called and she just can't get up and come in the middle of the night anymore. Stormi mentions to Betty that her mother-in-law, Shelby, came, but her mother didn't. But Betty reminds her daughter that Shelby lives in Alabama and does not have her 80-year-old mother living with her. Stormi wants to know exactly what her mother meant when she told her that that's what she gets for being on a reality show, and she wants to know why they both always end up in that sort of space. Now, Betty tells Stormi that they don't have to end up like that, and it's just the way that Stormi takes things. Back in her confessional, Stormi says that her mom comes at her with a hard exterior and stance, but Stormi is trying to get Betty to understand that she needs her and the softness, warmth, care, and vulnerability of a mother, and her mother has never been able to give her that. They flash back to Betty claiming that she never apologizes, and Stormi explains that it is because Betty is of the belief that if she meant something when she did it, then there is nothing to apologize for. Back in scene, Betty tells Stormi that she doesn't listen, has to be taught tough love, and that Stormi is one of those people that has to learn the hard way. Stormi wants to know why her mom felt that she needed tough love in that moment when she was about to turn herself into jail. And Betty says it was because it wasn't the first time she went to jail. Back in confessional, Stormi is just baffled that her mom would bring up her arrest when she was 18 because it doesn't correlate to this experience, so why bring it up? Stormi, are you freaking serious? Jail is jail. I agree with your mother. You've been there before. Granted, I understand that you wanted her to support you. But girl, you've been to jail before, and your mother doesn't appear to be nurturing. So what did you expect? Back in scene, Stormi tells her mom that she didn't do anything to get put in jail. Her mom, Betty, tells her that there are certain people in her circle that she shouldn't be fooling with. Ooh, perhaps Betty means Martel, Destiny, or Maurice, all people who have recently been arrested. But no, she meant Melody Cherie Rogers. But she hasn't actually said Melody's name yet. She's speaking subliminally by saying, quote unquote, this person, and referring to the mellow meters as quote unquote, these people. Then Betty tells Stormi that when she called her, she was mad, she was upset, and if Stormi had listened to her and the family, then none of this would have happened, because she wouldn't have been in the public eye of, wait for it, these people, because they want to elevate a certain person and bring down everybody else. Just listen.
Have this certain person they want to elevate and bring down everybody else. A certain number of this circle have people who are called to activate. And I'm going to use that word because that's the word that's used to attack anybody. When I go on and I attack this person,
Right, you keep saying this person. Who is the person?
I'll call her name, Mel.
Say it, because
Mel.
you confuse me.
Whenever I say something bad about Mel, I'm being attacked by her people.
But then on her side is, well, I can't control people.
You can let a person know where you stand. You stand with the demonic stuff that they're doing, then don't say anything. If it's something that you don't agree with, you know what? You're supposed to voice your disagreement. Now that's something Mel has to do.
So Betty actually admitted that she attacks Melody Cherie Rogers online, and she gets attacked by Melody's fanbase in retaliation. Also, she hinted that the fanbase is with demonic stuff. That's all I needed to hear. I know, she's speaking in hyperbole with the use of the word demonic. Or, is it a confession via projection? Zodiacs. Let that nugget that I just dropped marinate. But Betty kept going, and spoke on people boycotting Stormi as if it was Melody's fault. Where is your proof, Betty? People probably boycotted Stormi because of her lack of couth and business acumen. I've said this ad nauseum. Back in her confessional, Stormi says it's not the reality TV part that upsets her mom. It's the fact that Betty doesn't want Stormi connected to Mel. She thinks that Melody means Stormi no good and Stormi is getting what she deserves. In scene, Stormi says she understands what her mom is saying, but she still wanted motherly support. And Betty said that sometimes we don't always get what we want. Stormi says her mom isn't receptive to the fact that she hurt her feelings, and it took her back to the other times that her mom didn't show up for her. Apparently, Betty was late to Stormi's wedding. Stormi wants her mom to stop with the tough lessons, to come when she calls, and to make her feel like a priority, especially when she is crying and says that she needs her. Betty did tell her daughter that she was a priority and that she was always going to have her back because Stormi is her only child, but it was a tough sell for me. I mean, just like Betty's father used to say, sometimes you've got to let your butt drag the ground to teach you something. I think all of America joined Stormi and collectively said, what at the same time, but Stormi wants an apology. And it finally comes, they hug it out, and Betty says that Stormi made her, quote unquote, not do me. In Stormi's confessional, she says that the best part of the day for her was to be able to have an intimate and vulnerable conversation with her mother without it going left, and it feels good to move on a path that they've never been on before. It has taken so much for them to get there. As they walk back to the house, Betty tells Stormi to put it in her memory that she said the words, I'm sorry, because she's been telling people all her life that she doesn't apologize for anything. That ends the episode. Zodiacs, I need a drink. I'll say it again. Stormi Steele is no Melody Cherie Rogers, in no way, shape, or form. I'm tired of her camera time exceeding Melody's. I'm also sick of all of Trisha's camera time. They are not what's going to bring the show back to its former glory. The sooner Carlos King realizes that, the better. This ensemble cast works only when Melody Cherie Rogers is front and center. Thanks so much for watching my recap and review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss an episode of the Aries Girl podcast. And I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.